rafts. They battled the heat, the storms, and the water. Sharks, some 10 feet long, would ram their 9-foot boats. After only 8 days, their rations were eaten or destroyed by salt water. It would take a miracle to survive. Rickenbacker later said, "Throughout those 21 days of blistering sun and nights of ghastly chill, I never lost faith. I felt that we were adrift for a purpose. I saw life had no meaning except in terms of helping others. I think man instinctively does not interest himself in others. He does it only by an act of the will, when he sees that I am my brother's keeper, and do unto others are the essence of all truth. My experiences and the suffering through which I have passed have taught me that faith in God is the answer to life." One morning, after their daily devotions, Rickenbacker leaned his head back against the raft and pulled his hat over his eyes. A bird landed on his head. He peered out from under his hat. Every eye was on him. He instinctively knew it was a seagull. Rickenbacker caught it, and the crew ate it. The bird's intestines were used for bait to catch fish, and the crew survived to tell the story. A story about a stranded crew with no hope or help in sight. A story about prayers offered and prayers answered. A story about a visitor from an unknown land traveling a great distance to give his life as a sacrifice. A story of salvation. A story much like our own. Weren't we, like the crew, stranded? Weren't we, like the crew, praying? And weren't we, like the crew, rescued by a visitor we've never seen through a sacrifice we'll never forget? You may have heard the Rickenbacker story before. You may have even heard it from me. You may have read it in one of my books. Corrine did. She was engaged to the only crew member who did not survive, young Sergeant Alex Kazmarchik. As a result of a 1985 reunion of the crew, Mrs. Corrine Schwink learned that the widow of crew member James Whitaker lived only 80 miles from her house. The two women met and shared their stories. After reading this story in my book, In the Eye of the Storm, Mrs. Schwink felt compelled to write to me. The real miracle, she informed me, was not a bird on the head of Eddie Rickenbacker, but a change in the heart of James Whitaker. The greatest event of that day was not the rescue of a crew, but the rescue of a soul. James Whitaker was an unbeliever. The plane crash didn't change his unbelief. The days facing death didn't cause him to reconsider his destiny. In fact, Mrs. Whitaker said her husband grew irritated with John Bartek, a crew member who continually read his Bible both privately and aloud. But Whitaker's protests didn't stop Bartek from reading, nor did Whitaker's resistance stop the word from penetrating his soul. Unknown to Whitaker, the soil of his heart was being plowed. For it was one morning after a Bible reading that the seagull landed on Captain Rickenbacker's head, and at that moment, Jim became a believer. I chuckled when I read the letter, not at the letter. I believe every word of it, nor at James Whitaker. I have every reason to believe his conversion was real. But I had to chuckle at, please excuse me, but I had to chuckle at God. Isn't that just like him? Who would go to such extremes to save a soul? Such an effort to get a guy's attention. The rest of the world is occupied with Germany and Hitler. Every headline is reporting the actions of Roosevelt and Churchill. The globe is locked in a battle for freedom. And the Father is in the Pacific, sending a missionary seagull to save a soul. Oh, the lengths to which